There's our transportation.
Here, my name is Mr. Gilmartin, and I'll be talking to you today, telling you a little bit about the rules and about life on the canal. Unfortunately, our captain, Mr. James, couldn't be with us. He's a veteran of the war between the states, and after the war between the states, he was called out to serve his country again in the Indian Wars out in Arizona Territory. In his stead, his wife, Mrs. James, captains the boat. Unfortunately, she's not going to be with us for the ride. She's going to pick her up down in Defiance, and we'll see her down there. I'll introduce myself. My name is Mr. Gilmartin. I'm from Waterville, and as the only son of a canal boat captain, I grew up in the canals. I became a hoagie, which is named for the mule driver, the boy that drives the mules. And I was about 8 or 9 years old when I started that. How old are some of you folks?
10.
About 10. Well, still a pretty good age to be a hoagie. You'll make a pretty good day's work for a young child like yourself. About 31 cents a day. So our hoagie over there is Jake. He's getting to be 14. He's getting to be a little bit old to be a hoagie. He has the mules up there in front. Molly and Sally pull us. They're about 1,300 pounds each. But became a hoagie, and then eventually as I got older, I found this job here on the canal boat. So that's how I came here to be here today. I'd like to introduce a couple of the rest of the crew. On the tiller back there, steering the boat, we have Ms. Love, and she's a missionary down from Toledo. She's a missionary from St. Patrick's Church down in Toledo. And also up on the ropes on top of the boat, we have Ms. Wright. Her father owns a general store in Texas, Ohio. And so we'll be just a couple hours down there. But I'd like to ask you folks, where are you headed today? Where's your destination down in the Miami area? And some folks that say Texas. Cincinnati. Okay, very good. Well, if you're going to Texas, it'll just be about an hour or two, a pretty short trip. However, if you're going down to Cincinnati, that'll be about a week with you. So, ask you, did you bring your luggage for the folks staying with us? Do you have your luggage loaded?
Sure.
You have your luggage loaded. Well, that's good. Some folks they don't have their luggage with them, and so they get to kind of smelling pretty bad with all that. No luggage, no change of clothes. But speaking of clothes, I see some of you folks aren't very properly attired. You don't have a proper head covering. The man over here has it's an interesting type of head covering. It's better than nothing at all, I suppose. But some of you are showing a little bit of ankle. It kind of looks like in your bloomers and your undergarments. So I suppose you might want to get some different clothes up at the general store along the way. Be more proper like that. But here we are coming up to a bridge up here. It's one of the carriage bridges that the good folks Grand Rapids built. And you want to make sure to keep your arms, hands, anything like that inside the boat because the folks in Grand Rapids, they built the bridge at kind of a strange angle. So we do bump up sometimes against the side of the walls. One time there was a man that he wasn't paying attention. He was kind of hanging outside the boat, had his arm over the side, and we bumped up against that bridge there. And unfortunately, he broke his arm, and the nearest doctor we have is in Defiance, and it's about 8 hours. So he's in quite a bit of pain, and those doctors in Defiance, they're not the most reputable doctors. They're not the best, and by the time I got to him, they couldn't do much for him, and they had to amputate his arm, cut it right off. So you don't want to have that happen to you. So you want to keep any arms and hands inside. So Ms. Love back there appears to be doing a good job. I can't always say she does the best job. Sometimes she'll tilt us right to the side there, but doing real good there. Yep, it is good. Right now, we're here that scraping above on top of the roof of the boat. That's Miss Wright, and she's using what we call a pike pole. It's a 15-foot long pole, and she's pushing us away from the bank of the canal to make sure that we get into the lock properly. Have a good angle about getting in there so you don't crash on the side of it. And also, in just a couple moments, you're going to hear a splash into the canal, and that's Miss Wright detaching us from the mules. And the reason we have to detach from the mules is if we kept the tow rope on, if we kept connected, the tow rope could get stuck in the gates up there in the lock, and you get tangled around things, and it might pull the mules into the canal, which would be bad for both the mules. Yep, there you go, splash off. Miss Wright's still with us. That's just the tow rope. But if you detach the mules so they don't get pulled in, it'd be bad for the mules. They don't swim very well. Right here, coming up to lock number 44. And how the lock works is that once we get in there, there's these large gates you can see coming in. And those are called whaler gates. Can you say whaler gates for me?
Whaler gates.
Yep, those are the large gates. And once we get in there, we're going to close a set of doors behind us to lock us in. And then what's going to happen is some metal bars on top of the whaler gates. Those are called the wicket handles, and they open the wicket gates. And the wicket gates are built into the whaler gates, but they're underneath the water, so you can't see them. They're little black gates. Can you say wicket gates for me?
Wicket gates.
So when we open those wicket gates, what's going to happen is the water is going to come rushing in to the lock. The water on the other side of the lock is 3.5 feet higher than it is on this side. So when that water comes rushing in, it's going to raise us up about 3.5 feet, and we will be bumping around, jostling around as we rise up. You can feel it. It's kind of exciting experience. But you want to make sure they keep any of your arms and hands, any belongings inside, because we will bump up against it. And I want to make sure that no one has any injuries. Also, what sometimes happens when we get to all that bumping around and raising up, some people start to get a little bit queasy. And so we have something for that. It's called the thunder bucket. And so could I have a volunteer? About this woman right here. She's going to hold on to our thunder bucket. And you want to be kind of careful because the thunder bucket does has a hole in it in the bottom. So to hold on to that, I can just sit down. If anyone feels kind of ill, you can come over here and use the thunder bucket. But right now, I'm going to have to go and help them lock through, help them work the locks upstairs. I'll be back in just a couple of moments and tell you a little bit more about what's going on.
Mosquitoes on him. There's a bunch of mosquitoes.
You want me to look it up at home just so you can see what's going to happen? Or you want to stay?
Sandy, where's Timmy?
Timmy took the back.
Wait, you'll have to wait till we move up.
Where's Timmy?
Oh, I see it.
That sunshine, there we go.
No, the...
Oh, the little face, yeah.
That would be shitty. See it going up, Andrew?
See, yeah. There you go, watch it. Watch the line, there's that line, so we're about even there. Up a little bit more.
Here comes the water.
Up, going up a little bit more. There we go. Still going up. Still going up. In the front of the boat. Wonder what that is up to again.
Attention again. I'm up here on top of the lock, and since remember I told you we detached from the mules just a little bit ago, so Ms. Love and I are doing a little bit of the mules' work. We're pulling this out under our own power. It's about 12 tons, but it moves pretty well in the water. So if we can move it, the mules really are kind of getting a little bit of a vacation when they're pulling out here in the canals as opposed to pulling in the fields. Pull this out here a little bit more.
Pretty strong,
Brother John!
Okay, ready?
Well, you just saw us pulling this out in a moment. Right there, you can see the mules. Miss Rice reattaches to the mules, and they're going to pull us out. So I'd like to ask a question, y'all. Does anyone know why we have locks in the Miami Canal? What are they used for? What's the reason that we have them? Yep. Yeah, his answer was to go up hills. That's pretty much it's a good answer. It's so when there's a change in the elevation, when there's hills or valleys, you go up or down. It helps kind of raise us up or lower us down. The locks do, so that can keep us on an even, kind of regulate the level of the water. So the mules, they can't really pull us uphill or downhill. So the locks used to regulate the water levels. So when there's change in elevation, especially down further south, it gets kind of hillier. It used to regulate the level of the water. So that's the reason we have locks. And right up here, we're coming up to a railroad bridge. Just a couple moments. And Mr. and Mrs. James, they don't like the railroads too much because they take away a lot of our business here on the canals. Take away a lot of the passengers and a lot of the crops and other goods that we haul. But I think they're kind of exciting. They go pretty fast. Does anyone know how fast the railroads go? Yep, right here.
5 miles an hour.
25? Yep, that's pretty close. I actually go 30 miles an hour. So that was a good guess. They go real fast. Here in the canals, we only go about 4 miles an hour. The railroads can go 30. And another reason that people like to ride them is they run all year long. In the winter, the canals freeze over. We can't use them, but railroads can run all year long. But there are also problems with the railroads. They're a lot more expensive than the canals. The canals maybe run about 2 cents per mile. The railroads are more expensive. And they can be sort of dangerous sometimes. Railroads, they've had explosions, sometimes fires, things like that. Also, they tend to get robbed sometimes. We never get robbed here on this Canal Boat, the volunteer, because I'm on board. I'm a security, the only man, so we never get robbed. But those are some of the problems with the railroads. Also, bring it to my next point. They don't feed you on the railroads. They don't have to bring your own food, but here in the canal, we get served twice a day, both for breakfast and then dinner. We have dinner about 7 o'clock. And so what happens, Ms. Wright will cook for us. And she cooks back there. We have a stove in the back corner. And we have a lot of different things, a variety of things in the menu. She'll sometimes make her cornbread. We'll have to warn you. There's Miss Wright talking about the cornbread. It does have to be soaked.
Always talks about my cornbread. He loves it.
Oh yes, it's very good, Miss Wright. It does have to be soaked for just a couple hours in the canal water, though. It's a little bit hard. So one time I tried to bite into it, didn't soak it long enough, and I almost cracked my tooth. So you don't want to have that happen to you.
But didn't it taste good?
No, it was good once it got soft enough. But it's got to be careful of that. Ms. Wright says the canal waters are their secret ingredient.
It's a good marinade.
Yeah. Also, we have other things like we have some meats. Did you all bring your cane poles with you? One that did. Okay. Well, that's good. You can fish for us. We use our fishing poles, so we get some catfish, things like that, bass or walleye. We also have the muskrat. We use the pike pole sometimes to grab the pike pole and get one of the muskrats. They tend to damage the tow path, so we really like it. We can save the money on damaging the tow path, so we eat some of the muskrat. And another favorite is the polecat stew. Sometimes we'll have the polecat, another option for eating. Also, if you're staying on board for a little while, sometimes you get to be doing your laundry. And so the way we do that, we have our wash pail right here, and also the lye soap. Does anyone know what lye soap is made from? Yep. It is, very good. It's made from animal fat and ashes. And so we have the washing pail, not to be mixed up with the thunder bucket. Come with that. We have the washboard. We scrape some soap off on there and get some water from the side of the boat and get our clothes and kind of scrub it on there with the water in the wash pail. And wait a second. Oh, we go. Those are mules. Well, that's Jake. Jake, we're going the wrong way. We need to be going down to Cincinnati in Texas. We have a problem. Well, it's very clear that we have a problem. We're not supposed to be turning around the boat like this. Oh, we're going to be blocking if there's any other boats coming. It's a good thing that there's no boats coming because we'd be in big trouble. If one of the canal walkers saw us, we have to pay a big fine. We have to pay about the $2 fine for turning around. It's illegal move we're doing right here. Well, Ms. Wright, what's going on? We can't be turning around like we're never going to make it to Texas. These folks have paid good passage. They paid the money. We're going to Cincinnati, Texas, down south.
that true, folks? You
Yes.
They're very upset. That young man is very angry. They're outraged. Well, let's listen to Mrs. Wright. Let's just give her a chance to talk. All right. Now tell us what's going on, Ms. Wright.
Well, you folks will be excited to know, actually, because it's actually pretty good news. You see that Witter General Store down in Napoleon? Anyone go to Napoleon? Alright, well, maybe we can stop there. Maybe we can stop there on the way because you see they've gone bananas down at that Witter General Store. That's right, they got a shipment of those brand new bananas. And you see they're so excited down there for the bananas that Mrs. Witter, she wants to start making all these new banana dishes. She wants to make banana bread, banana pudding, that kind of thing. So, well, we forgot to bring her sacks of wheat flour that she asked for. So we've got to go back to the Ludwig mill and get ourselves 2 sacks of wheat flour for the Witter General Store down there.
All right. I suppose we do have to get that wheat. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do for you. We could give you a free passage on the way back. Is that all right?
Yes.
Or maybe some of the polecat, an extra helping of the polecat stew. Yes. Do you know what polecat is, sir? No. It's a skunk. It's skunk. So we'll give you some of that if you like some of the skunk. But well, anyway, if you were staying, talking about food, if you're staying for a longer period of time, you might have nature start to call you. And unfortunately, we don't have an outhouse or a privy on board, but we have a way to deal with that. For the women, we've got the chamber pot. And so what you do, you go back on the tiller deck, and you have to go back with one of the women, whether Ms. Love or Ms. Wright, and they hold up their apron for you to give you some privacy. And you can do your business in the chamber pot. But for the men, you do something different. You use the thunder bucket. And so you'll go back. I will till for just a little while when you're back there. If you try to go back there when Mrs. Love's up there, Ms. Love, she'll be very upset. So don't do that. And I'll go back until you use a thunder bucket. And after it gets the contents get a little bit full. Does anyone know which side we throw off the contents of the chamber bucket, the chamber pot, or thunder bucket? You know, this side. Yep. This side. Well, see, ma'am, you're not going to be able to use the chamber pot because that's the wrong side. That's the heel. That's where we get our clean water from. We should throw it off the tow path side. And that's where the mules tow us. So we get all the clean water, all the cooking, the cleaning, and the drinking water from the heel path. And then the dirty water goes over on the tow path side. And what happens is the boat separates the waters. And so it keeps them separate like that. And that works very well. Also, get to talking about staying overnight. If folks are staying for a longer period of time, folks going to Cincinnati. Well, we're not going to Cincinnati anymore, but if you were going to Cincinnati, we got sleeping arrangements for you. We don't have really any cots or any beds. We do have planks, or wooden planks. They're about 6 feet long and about 1.5 feet wide. So if you folks like to roll around a little bit in bed, we might want to sleep on the lowest one because we do stack them about 3 high. And fall from the third one is a little ways down there. So I won't be doing that. We're going to have the men and women separated. It's kind of improper how you're sitting in mixed company like this. So you're going to have the women in the front of the boat. You're going to have a curtain there to give them some privacy. And the men will sleep in the back. And what happens is that some folks like to try to go in the middle of the night, try to see their sweetheart in between. And Ms. Love really doesn't appreciate that. She gets to be very, very angry about that. So she stations herself right about here, and she says she stays awake all night. Her eyes are always wide open, and she says she's kept awake by the Holy Spirit, and that she never sleeps. So if she catches you doing that, she'll probably start reciting.
Watch what happens to these bricks.
I would like to ask you all, are you going to stop?
Pretty much. Keep your head inside the boat.
Can I help if my head's so big it kind of falls out?
What the?
Hope it didn't catch on fire.
Food on. She's got an apple over there on the table.
You hear that? So look for them because they're pretty big birds and they're easier to see than some. Take turns. You'll have to floop so they're. And because the tops of them are kind of white, they would actually kind of glow in the dark. So they knew where the river was because they'd see a whole line of those sycamore trees. And if they were traveling at night so they wouldn't be found, they would just look at the moonlight glowing on those white bark of the tree and they'd know where the river was. They knew they were close and they could follow it and not be found. grocery store. You guys paying attention? I need your ears when I'm talking, okay, so I don't have to talk too loud. But they're the tiny grapes. They're not, the grapes you get in the store come from a vineyard or, you know, someplace that has lots and lots of grapes all in a row, a farm basically for grapes. And they're big and they're grown to be big. And these are just tiny little grapes and they make good food for wildlife, but they don't really taste all that good for us. They're not sweet. Not as sweet as the big grapes we have to eat in the grocery store. The thorny one? It's kind of just like a wild rose bush. You know rose bushes have thorns, and I wouldn't touch it now. Plus, there's probably some poison ivy mixed in there, and we don't want to get into that. All right, back up so I don't get you with this. Of course, there's the famous cotton. I'll let you guys see it in a minute. Back up so everybody can see, and I'll pass it around to everybody. But that is what's, and eventually it'll get dry enough that that'll open up, and then.
Last summer we were
And then eventually make your way out into the bay and then out and finally out into the lake, Lake Erie. So it's feeding into the lake. Yeah, let's not go down there.
I need to do it. Yeah.
You want to do it?
Shoot it.
I think it's supposed to go. Is that supposed to be drinking fountain?
Drinking fountain.
Right out of the canal.
Yeah.
I can.
It's out of the keel side of the canal, right? Grab a hold here. Are you ready? You got a hold.
Ready?
Push her down. Push her up. Hang on. Down.
Oh, John's looking thirsty. Hurry.
All right, you get him?
Oh my God!
Come on, get rolling.
All right, go, go.
Get rolling.
Come on.
Come on, get rolling. There we go. Got the grass. Tell them it's all about